Hey everybody, it's Charlie from Daily Motor, and I've been spending the last few weeks with the all-new 2024 Honda CBR650R. And a lot of people are into this bike because it is one of the most accessible ways to get into an inline four-cylinder sport, borderline super sport looking sort of motorcycle for a relatively reasonable price from a manufacturer that you know is going to be reliable and has a pretty robust dealer network. So for just over $10,000, you can get onto this bike, you can ride it as a daily, you can take it to the track, you can do all sorts of different riding with it. But what I'd like to answer today is what sort of fuel economy can you expect if you're using it as a daily rider? Now for some people, fuel economy, not even going to be an issue when they get on a bike. The fact that they're getting more than their car is plenty fine for them. However, some people want to know how much you're going to be spending to fill this thing up, and perhaps more usefully from this test, what is it going to be like to commute on this bike? Because despite this not being a full-on super sport, it is definitely more aggressive to sit on than something like this Ninja 650 right over here that we're going to be comparing the bike to here in a few weeks. The Ninja, similar styling, but higher handlebars, different foot peg configuration. It's going to be a little bit more comfortable. And this inline four is not going to have quite the torque figure down low as something like a parallel twin like that Ninja 650. So what's it really going to be like to ride this bike in a daily rider sort of situation? So for today's test, I'm going to head out and do our 41-mile loop roughly. It's going to consist of a mixture of city-style riding, higher 55-mile-an-hour roads, and highway, as well as a little bit of aggressive riding, but mostly kind of how you might ride in order to get into the office and back. One thing that's pretty cool for this 2024 model is we have this new E-clutch from Honda, which means I can shift without using the clutch lever whatsoever. It's pretty cool to have around town. So that'll be interesting for this whole ride, and mostly, will I be comfortable? So a few other things to note for today. Outside temperature is about 70 degrees through our whole route. We're gonna set the tires, make sure they're set to their placard pressure. What do we got over here? We're looking at 36 PSI front, 42 rear. And I'm gonna be riding as one might on a standard commute. I'm not gonna be ripping it away from every stoplight, but I'm gonna try to keep within 5 miles per hour of the posted speed limit. With the E-clutch, it's got it engaged already, so I can just, it's so strange. Put it into first, and then roll off the accelerator. It lets out the clutch for me. Very uncanny. You can see right there, my instinct was to pull in the clutch for that stop, even though I don't technically have to. It's just when you go from bike to bike, you have habits. And one of the main motorcyclist habits is if there's a clutch lever there and you're coming to a stop, especially in sort of emergency type situation, you pull it in. Something else that is going to surprise people with the CBR650R is that it only requires 87 octane. No need to put premium fuel in here. It's definitely going to be nice if you plan on commuting with the bike. Fairly large fuel tank also, 4.5 gallons. I think it's got a little bit of a reserve in there, but yeah, 4.5 gallon fuel tank, 87 octane. With the aerodynamics, this might end up being a pretty decently efficient cruiser. Now in terms of comfort, that's a little TBD. I'm certainly in an engaged riding position, but I'll be curious to see how that fares over the whole trip. Alright, was able to use the screen to reset our trip A and average fuel economy for trip A. And now we're going to head off. So in the meantime, enjoy this time lapse of the entire ride. back after what I would call a successful commuter ride. The CBR650R is a plenty good commuter bike. I will say if you plan on being on the road for more than an hour, your wrists might start getting a little sore. It's going to depend a bit on your body structure and how you end up triangulating onto the handlebars and onto the seat, but my butt's a little sore, my shoulders and my wrists were ready to be done. At least take a little break by that time. But the bike was happy to keep going. The engine's good for this sort of riding. It's obviously fun to be able to ring it out, but you can actually do that out of a few stoplights and not be doing super illegal speeds with this bike, whereas if you were on something like a full-on super sport, you'd be hitting the top of first and going well over US highway speeds there. The E-clutch does make it easier to ride around as well. It's nice to be able to just click through gears. It takes a little while, but the cool thing is because there is still a normal clutch lever, you can still instinctually grab the clutch and ride it as though it's a normal manual bike. It's not like a DCT where you might go to reach for that and then find it being gone and have that sensation be weird. Getting to fuel economy, we ended up putting in 0.812 gallons back into the tank after our 42.9 mile trip. Oh wow, I'm just noticing right now, look how cool the exhaust pipe's looking there. Super distraction. Anyway, so 42.9 miles divided by that 0.812 gallon, it's giving us just a hair under 53 MPG. So a few miles per gallon lower than the bike's readout, but still a pretty darn good number for this sort of performance. Now I will say that fuel economy result was ticking up on the gauge cluster readout as I was on the highway. So if you plan on doing a good amount of highway riding, you could definitely see higher numbers than that, because that was cruising pretty stable at 75 miles per hour. Taking that generous 4.5 gallon fuel tank and multiplying it by that 53 MPG figure is giving you an effective cruising commuting range of 230 miles or 380 kilometers here on the 2024 CBR650R. That's a plenty usable figure, and I think that's really one of the cool things about the CBR650R is that it is a perfect blend between trackable sport bike and a livable sport bike. It's right there in the middle, maybe not quite leaning as comfortable as something like the Ninja 650, but definitely not as hardcore as something like a straight up, like an R6, even though they don't make that anymore, or a ZX6R or something like that. So thank you all so much for watching. If you do want to see more on the CBR650R, check the link below. We're going to shoot that comparo with the Ninja 650. We're going to have its own dedicated review. And we've got a winding road ride with no talking as well. And we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and as always, ride on.